When an organic chemist says that something is dry, they don't mean that it's a solid. They just mean that it contains no water. Likewise, when something is wet, it's got water in it. If you're asked to dry a solution, you'll use a drying agent. Anhydrous means dry. In this class, the drying agent we'll be using is predominantly sodium sulfate, which is available abundantly at your local balance area. So my product is dissolved in this ether, and evidently my extraction didn't go quite to plan because it's got a lot of water in the sample. The water might not be this obvious. It might look a little bit cloudy in here, and even if you don't see any visible signs of water, you should still probably use a drying agent because a small amount of water can dissolve in ether. Excess water in your sample will gum up your product when you go to evaporate off the solid. So in my weigh paper here, I've got a little mound about the size of a quarter, if you were to compact this. And this should be enough for probably me and my lab partner, maybe just me in a case as egregious as this. Now, don't cause a traffic jam in the balance area trying to weigh this out. I know you're given an estimate of how much you should have, but really just visually look for about this amount. So a little bit at a time, I'm going to add my drying agent and swirl it around. And it will begin to clump around the water I've got in there. What I'm looking for is free-flowing crystals of drying agent, and I'm not quite seeing that yet, so I'm going to add a little bit more and swirl again. So you can compare this to when I had not enough in there and it was all moving around as one kind of fluid mass. Now I see definite clumping. So our previous sample was a little overkill. This is maybe a more typical example. We can see pretty obvious signs of clumping, so I'm going to add a little bit more just to make sure I can see a couple of free floating grains around in there that are no longer absorbing any water. So now that my product is fully dried, I'm going to go ahead and decant off my ether. And now, I want to emphasize to you that this solid is not your product. Your product is in your ether that you just dried. Do not collect this and turn it in as your product. It is not your product. Now, drying agent has a lot of surface area, which is good because it helps it grab onto water, but it also means that it can grab onto your product and some ether is left behind clinging to it. So it's a good idea to give this a little wash. I'm just gonna take some fresh solvent here and swirl it around, and then again, just kind of decant a little bit of that fresh solvent off, hopefully carrying with it any residual product that was left on my sodium sulfate. Now this is trash. Again, not your product. This is trash. It's a solid, therefore it belongs in the solid waste. Now, one thing I'd like to point out is that the solid waste is for solid chemicals only. A warning which your colleagues have not heeded. As you can see, this is filled with a bunch of random stuff that is not a solid chemical. However, this is a solid chemical and I will dispose of it in the solid waste accordingly. Now, every single quarter, someone gets the bright idea to go and try and dump their sodium sulfate into a funnel. TA, I think that the organic waste is clogged. Exceed your TA's low expectations and dispose of your solid waste properly. The next part of the video is a quiz. Can you identify which of these has the correct amount of drying agent in it? Is this enough drying agent? Do you think this is enough drying agent? Does this look okay? Is this enough drying agent? Is this enough drying agent? Do you think this is enough drying agent? Is this enough drying agent?